Hi everyone. So this story was posted into the Facebook group a couple of weeks ago, a story out of Carthage, and when I looked at it, we really shouldn't be surprised that there is no justice here for these two women pictured on the right, Melissa and Dana. They are sisters who lived in Carthage, and the person on the right is Zedrik Grace, who ran a warning light and a stoplight, killing them both in 2016, and he hasn't been brought to justice. So the original account from the Penola Watchman said a Timpson man has been charged in the connection with the October 2016 wreck that claimed the lives of two local sisters. Zedrik Grace, 23, of Timpson, was arrested on Monday, July 3rd by Carthage Police Department officer Johnny Villasino pursuant to local warrants, grand jury indictment, criminal negligent homicide ×2. So these are the charges from Carthage Police Department in Penola County, as you can see, and the bond on this is a ridiculous $5,000 surety bond, and I've never seen anything like this for criminal negligent homicide. It's just disgusting and offensive to the family that this man has not been brought to trial. The rest of the article goes on to say that according to Blake Smith, Carthage Police Assistant Chief Dana Michelle Bass, 33, and her sister Melissa Lynn Blakeney McCary, 35, both of Carthage, were killed when the vehicle they were travelling in was struck by a truck at FM 699 and Loop 436. The Carthage Police Department received a call about the two-vehicle accident at 12:55 a.m. on October 15th, 2016. So this is the area where the accident happened, just southeast of Carthage on the loop, loops around, off FM 699. So right here. According to Smith, a Key Energy 2011 Mack truck and trailer driven by Grace was travelling north on the loop. The truck hit the 2013 white Hyundai driven by Bass that was crossing the loop on FM 699. Both Bass and her passenger McCary were pronounced dead at the scene by Penola County Justice of the Peace, David Gray. Their bodies were sent to Southwestern Institute of Forensic Sciences for autopsy. According to Smith, Grace was uninjured. Carthage Fire Department, EMS, Police Chaplain Dale Reed, Penola County Sheriff's deputies and Texas DPS troopers responded. And there wasn't a lot after that in regards to this, just for the fact that he's been charged for these, but he hasn't been taken to trial. And it really begs the question to Danny Buck, the district attorney for Carthage, as to why. As far as I'm aware, Key has taken no responsibility, no liability for this accident, and there just seems to be no justice whatsoever. And so this is the perspective of the case and what happened from friends of the family The evening of October 14th, the sisters, Jessica, Melissa and Dana, all drove to Hallsville to have a girls' night out with their very close childhood friend, Crystal. They played games and had Bloody Marys. When she says Bloody Marys, Jessica says they each drank maybe half of one cup. A little before midnight, Dana, who was driving, texted their friend Candace and said she was headed home. They all lived together. They texted off and on for several minutes, and then Candace said when she realised it had been long enough for her to make it, she started calling all three of the girls with no answer. An hour or so passed and she decided to go looking. As she comes up on the loop headed towards Melissa's house, she sees the lights from the police and ambulance. She crosses the loop and sees their car. At first, she wasn't sure if it was them, so she made a U-turn and saw Dana's purse sitting on the truck and jumped out of her truck, only to be stopped by a volunteer fireman and told she could not go to the scene. She was calling the friend's cell by this time, but she didn't hear it because she was asleep. And she woke the friend up by banging on her front door. The look on her face, I immediately knew something wasn't right. On her way to my house, she got a hold of our other friend, Victoria, who was pulling into my drive by the time we made it out of the house. This was roughly 1:30 a.m. All three, Candace, Victoria and the friend, drove to the hospital looking for anything. They pulled up and there were police everywhere, and they jumped out and Candace runs inside, and of course no one will tell them anything because none of them are next of kin. While walking back towards the car, they saw the funeral home van, so they stopped dead in their tracks and all three were hysterically crying because they know what's happening. Kind of. We knew the first one was Melissa because she was so tall. The second body, we were unsure if it was Dana or Jessica. She saw the driver of the semi sitting in a truck in the parking lot with his family surrounding us, just staring while we cry uncontrollably at what we're witnessing. As they load the second body and shut doors to that van, a guy I know very well who works at the funeral home walks out, and she ran up to him and of course he hugs her because he knows all of them are so close. The friend is begging him to tell her who it is and he can't because of the law, so she asked him to please just tell me if it's 2 or 3 people, and he said 2. At this time, we leave there and go to the sister's house, who we think may have got dropped off at home right before the wreck. So they were banging on her door and we can hear her hollering at her dog to quit barking. She finally opened the door and they had to tell her the news. After getting a hold of her mum, who was in Illinois at the time, they all loaded up and went to the funeral home, where as soon as Jessica walked in, they told her the news that it was her 2 sisters. We called Melissa's husband and he met us at the funeral home. It's just heartbreaking to hear the first-hand perspective as opposed to a media release. And it seems like law enforcement in Penola County particularly doesn't seem to care. So the friend knows that they've spoken with lawyers, and as of right now this case is at a standstill. And of course this happened almost 3 years ago. Danny Buck lives across the street from Jessica, and he and his wife have been extremely rude to her since she has moved in. They don't answer calls, emails, or even let her visit with him in the office. The computer from Dana's car shows her coming to a complete stop, slowly accelerating and then gassing it at the last minute. Melissa had to have a closed casket because her face and upper body were so mangled from being on the passenger's side where he hit them. We actually got to view her body in a private viewing before the funeral. You could see where her entire skull was crushed. Their mother and sister have never recovered from this nightmare. I don't blame them. And this guy here is responsible. I noticed he did test negative for for alcohol. I'm not sure about drugs, but I think he was coming home from work, and he was driving a huge water tanker, and it was his birthday, the day of the accident. The friends are almost sure he was on his phone, and there is a warning light before the actual stoplight. He still ran it going full speed and never even hit his brakes. The car was like a crushed can, and I think he was going about, was it 65 miles per hour? No phone records were ever pulled, but he was tested for drugs and alcohol and was negative, right? So there's that. He's still operating his CDL license and hauling logs. Last time friends and family knew. I do, have huge questions about why he still has that license too. He has ties to Penola County but lives in Tenea, and I'm not for sure what his ties here are. The friend just remembers when it first happened, people were defending him, and I get that. None of us think he woke up and decided to run a light and kill 2 people, and they also don't think he deserves life or anything like that. They just want him to serve what's fair, pay for his choices, and that's all we're looking for here. We're not looking for the death penalty or anything like that, because it was an accident. But you still do need to pay for your mistakes. So following up on this, I'll do a short live either the end of this week or early next week, so we can discuss this. Friends and family or anyone who wants to know more about the case will be welcome to call in. But I do want to get to the bottom of this and just see if anything can be done to bring justice to these 2 women and to their families and friends who love them very much.